I greet you with Jesus' joy, for it is in him that I live, breathe, move, and have my very being. I am so glad that you decided to join Unboxed on Purpose today. We are a podcast created for Favored by the Father Ministries. I am Barbara Arlene Fields Brehon, your host. Our guests share how they stepped outside of dark places in life, outside of comfort zones to become unboxed. We share all kinds of experiences and conversations that lead to the fulfillment of purpose with the hopes that what we talk about will resonate with you, our listeners, that if we could do it, you can too. Step outside of comfort zones, step outside of dark places, dark boxes, and pursue our authentic destiny in Christ Jesus. This episode, I'm so delighted to bring a guest all the way from Hawaii on stage today. And I pray that his story is going to resonate with you. So sharing with us today is none other than Rod Martin. And he's going to discuss how to write things down and share what works. Hey, Rod, how are you doing?
Very fine, and aloha everyone from Hawaii.
Tell them what part of Hawaii you alohaing from.
I'm on the windward side of the island of Oahu. That has Honolulu, has about 1 million people.
How long have you been there in Hawaii?
Since 1978. So I've been here longer than I've been anywhere else.
Oh, my. I would ask you to tell us a little bit about how you got there, but let me just go ahead back and do a little bio kind of thing since I have it here. I had asked you to send me some information. So let me go ahead and do things the right way. Go ahead and read that while you're sitting right there looking at me, okay?
Okay.
Rod Martin lives up close to the mountains on the Windward side of the island he just shared about. He's a born-again Christian since the age of 16. He is an author. He's a songwriter. He is a poet who enjoys caring for I'm getting excited, for this botanical garden home that he has, nestled in a mountain cover. For 30 years, he didn't tell me this, but I found out. For 30 years, Rod taught poetry, drama, English, and television production in the Hawaiian public schools. He is a retired person and living it up. He is living it up, writing books and enjoying life in Hawaii. What do you have to say about that introduction, Rod?
Very good. Very good. That's me.
Anything you want to add to it?
No, I'm good with that. That's fine. Now they know that I'm a teacher, which means I can talk up a storm. So if I talk too much, you tell me when it's time to be quiet.
Well, from the bio that I just gave, and most of our listeners and our new listeners are finding out now that I am a retired reading teacher. So we are in cahoots today.
There we go.
All right now. I usually begin by asking our guests to talk about, to roll the script all the way back to their childhood and teen years and think about what your passions in life were, where you lived, the days in your life in terms of what probably propelled you even from childhood to become the person that you have become. I'm going to go backstage, trust you with open mic, and let you begin there. And you go with that in any direction the Lord tells you to.
Very good.
Tell us about your passions in childhood.
Well, I was very lucky. I grew up in a loving home. My mom and dad were good to me. I had an older brother too. I grew up in a small town called Germantown, Ohio, middle of America, salt of the earth kind of people. And I was raised in the church, in the Methodist church. And I remember thinking like, well, yeah, they're praising the Lord, but not too loud. They don't seem very excited. But in my teenage years, I fell in with a group of people who called themselves Jesus freaks. I mean, these young people were very excited about God, like they had just talked to him that morning. And I said, I want to feel that kind of excitement. I said, well, what do I have to do? And they said, well, Jesus said you have to be born again. And I go, well, how do I do that? And they said, well, you say a prayer and you invite him into your heart and you tell him you're sorry if you've done wrong things, to be forgiven of your sins, and take it from there. And I go, well, that sounds good to me. So when I got home, and it happened to be an Easter Sunday, I thought this would be a good day to ask the Lord in my heart. So I went out on the front porch. It was a sunny morning, beautiful day. And I said, well, Lord, you said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If you open the door, I will come in and live with you. And I said, I would like you to do that, Lord. I would like you to come in and be with me my whole life. And I know, too, I'm supposed to ask you to forgive my sins. Now, Lord, I'm only 16 years old, so I haven't really gotten around to a whole bunch of sinning that I can think of. But if I've done anything to upset you, I'm sorry. And anyway, I trust your word that you will come in and we'll start this adventure together. And I opened my eyes and I looked out at the beautiful day. And there on the bush right by my house was a cardinal. And I said, Lord, is that a sign? And God in my heart said, no, that's a cardinal. So it made me laugh. But I said, well, Lord, here we go. I'm going to trust you that you will do what you said. And we started this Christian walk together.
I'm laughing with you and said, no, that's not a sign. That's a cardinal. I love it. I love it. I love it. Just keep talking to us. You're a natural storyteller, so you know what the flow of the show is. We're going to be talking about becoming unboxed. And you know that your title that you gave it is Write Things Down and share what works. So I'm going to go backstage and let you dump puzzle pieces out, because you're going to tell us what your passion in life was as a child. There was something that you liked to do, and it spewed into who you have become. And so I'm going to let you tell us about it.
Well, gee, from those early days, I liked being outside. I was lucky we had an orchard of apple trees in our yard. So as soon as the weather turned nice, I was climbing those trees. I'd start eating those apples as soon as they started coming out. It didn't bother me if they were green. And all my life, I've enjoyed the company of nature. And I'm really happy that I ended up in Hawaii, because this is a beautiful spot. I have the ocean to go play in. I can chase fish. I can go sailing. And I have the mountains to hike in. So those things are an inspiration to me. And well, I just feel that I've had a blessed life. I've been lucky. You know how you said you wanted me to talk about times when life was dark and I had overcome something, and I thought, well, gosh, my life has been so good. I don't really have a lot of sad times.
So rather than think of it being sad, think about fulfilling purpose. You made a pivot. Maybe not a catastrophic thing happened, but something happened that caused you to just shift or pivot and move you toward your authentic purpose.
Oh, okay. Well, I am an author now. And how did I get here? Well, when I don't remember exactly what grade it was, but in high school, but I believe it was high school. We had an English teacher who asked us to write a journal and turn that in every week, and so she could read it. And when she gave my journal back, she said, Rod, I really enjoy reading what you write. You keep on writing, you hear? And all I needed is a little encouragement, boy, and away I went. And at that time, I met a friend named Bob Hackett. Now, here's a tall, lanky guy who worked on motorcycles, and he was just a little wild, but he kept a journal. And we would get together, the friends and I, and share what we were writing about. And so that's when I got that idea. It's a good thing to write things down. And what I did not know was that if I hadn't written them down, I would not remember them today. Because, as you get older, your life gets so full, your brain just can't hold it all, I guess. So, anyway, I believe that, and I want to encourage everybody who thinks they like writing to write things down so you can remember them. Now, I have 3 books of poetry because I went through my computer where I save things, right? You write it down and you save it if you can. You either print it out or put it in a journal or have it in a file on your computer. So I would like, if I may, to share one of the poems that I would do for my students. And sometimes I worked as a substitute teacher, and I try to win their hearts over. I'd say, would you guys like to hear a poem I wrote? It's kind of a rap. They said, oh, sure, Mr. Martin, let's hear what you can do. And I said, okay, it goes like this. Yo, it may seem strange the way I can rearrange words to say something or nothing at all, like scrawl on the wall, if you will, and still the poet is free. No, I will not be confined by my commentary, not the least bit bound. I speak for the sake of sound, bursting around your ear bones like headphones filled with rock and roll. An imaginary stroll on a tightrope of time and nonsense and rhyme just for you. And why? Because that's what poets do. And usually by then, I had them in the palm of my hand.
I love it. Tell us what your website is so that they can get to see some of your stuff. And then I'm going to go backstage and let you keep rolling with whatever it is that God has given you to share with us, because it's working. I don't have to do question and answer. Let's just stay out of the box and let Rod be Rod.
Okay. Well, if they want to see some of the things I've done, there's 2 places they can go. To see about the books I wrote and some of my poetry and some of the songs, you go to rodmartinpoet.com. That's the name of my website for Quippy Quill, my publisher, rodmartinpoet.com. And then if you'd like to see some music videos I put together, several years ago now, you go to YouTube and you search for Rod Martin and Friends channel. And there's 65 music videos there to entertain you. And then when it comes to liking my books, well, you can go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble. I'm particularly happy with the poetry books I put together because it shows you how, what I was going through at different times of my life. And I'd love for you to have a chance to read those. You can get an ebook. It saves you a lot of money for just like $5 or something like that, or a printed copy. And you go looking for, they say, well, what's the author's name? You put Rod, R-O-D, Martin, M-A-R-T-I-N. And the book I want you to start with is called Faith, Love, and Hope. That comes from the Bible. Those of you who read your Bible may recognize that. It's like, well, faith is important. Hope is important. Love is important. The greatest of these is love. So this has a lot of that kind of thought in it. And it's about 180 pages long or something of poems. And there's some that are I don't know, I'd call them gospel poems. Like, Lord, the more I search, the more I find. Awaken my heart and soothe my mind. Heighten my joy and lower my pride. And be not out there, be here, inside. So I hope that you'll enjoy those and take a look around. And I hope that you will write some poetry if you like. One of the books I wrote was called Future Poets, because I love to do poetry with my students. And I kept coming up with ideas to try to keep them interested. Now, one thing that I'm kind of proud of, I made this up, and it's the easiest poem I could think of. It's a 5-finger poem. Now, how many words do you think would be in a 5-finger poem? 5. That's right. That should be easy, right? And it doesn't have to rhyme. It just says something. What can you say in just 5 words? And one of my students raised his hand. He was all perplexed. He said, Mr. Martin, I can't think of anything. I said, what did you say? Can you repeat that? I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything. Congratulations. You did it. And we had fun with those. So there's in that book, Future Poets, there's all these different ways to write a poem. You can take a word and write it down the page. And then you write sentences starting with the letters from that word that are about that word. You know, if it's like peace on earth, you know, P-E-A-C-E, you know, write that. Or you can do your name. Those are called acrostics.
Right.
So there's all different styles of things. And if they couldn't think of anything, I would have a whole list of topics they could try. You know, I believe that students want to write and are happy to do it. They just sometimes can't think about what to write. So you give them a sheet of paper with suggestions and away they go.
You are taking me down memory lane from the times where I used writing to teach reading and to
Mm-hmm.
improve reading skills, because it's all communication and it's vital for whoever we become in the world and in our lives. I have another kind of question for you, because you have that kind of voice that sounds so familiar to me. Have you ever done voiceovers?
No, but I'm an actor. One thing I enjoy is acting. And a lot of people, when I meet them and I talk to them, they go, you know, you have a radio voice. You should be
Uh-huh.
working on the radio. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm retired now, and working doesn't go well with retirement. So just enjoy my voice for free when I'm around you, and that's it. I'm not going back to work anymore.
That's a great thing, because I'm in retirement and this is work to some people, but it's fun to me.
That's
Doing
right.
this
That's
thing
right.
called podcasting. And so, as we talk about all these things that we're talking about, tell us a little bit more about how you do what you do in um, your purpose filled life, and what you consider, now that you are where you are, your purpose. When you look back on it, what do you think? How do you explain to us what your ultimate purpose is in being?
No, at the moment, I think it's to be a writer of sorts. Now, I still write poems.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll get up early in the morning at 5 o'clock when it's still dark out and wait for the birds to start singing. And then I'll just write whatever comes to mind. Sometimes it works, sometimes not so much. But it's the idea of just you start writing and you'll be surprised where it goes sometimes. Um, and I remember one time I started to write some books, and I was talking with my friend on the phone. And I said, "I'm having fun writing stories and books and stuff."
Right.
He goes, "Oh, really? Well, are you going to write the great American novel?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'd like that, but I don't know." He goes, "Well, what is the great American novel, Rod?" I said, "Well, I I've heard it said that it's Huckleberry Finn, or some
Mm.
people say Moby Dick." And he said, "Well, I'm going to write Huckleberry Dick." And I said, "Well, not if I can beat you to it." That night, I started writing a detective story about a guy who gets a message from this professor. He's a professor of English, and his moniker or cyber moniker is Huckleberry Dick, because he knew those were the two big novels of our time. And the story goes on where this is a
Let me pause for just one moment, just in case there's a younger listener who doesn't know what those are. What are those two novels that you're fusing together?
Huckleberry Finn, written by Mark Twain, and Moby Dick.
Just
Now, who wrote Moby Dick?
Just to
Remind me.
make it clear, I wanted to make sure that the audience knew that those were classics. You can go on with your next point, because I also want you to roll it back and tell what you wish you had known maybe 40 years ago.
Way back then.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, if I had only known how comforting and important it is to love God. Because I studied social work in college because I wanted to do something to help people. And I thought I could be a minister or I could do social work. And I said, well, I'm going to try social work. And as I got into that, I realized, well, as a social worker, it's kind of a secular activity. You can't go telling people, well, you see, Jesus is the answer, and then people go, hey, Rod, you can't go preaching to these people now. Okay, all right, all right. So I actually told God, if you don't mind, Lord, I'm going to take a break from being quite so religious, It's just so I
Mhm.
know how other people think and feel. But please don't lose track of me because I love you. So I had my wild days where I was experimenting with whatever came around, girls mostly. But somehow the Lord came back into my life and said, well, Ron, it's time to, you know, pick up where we left off. And I'm so glad he did. And that's what I would have told my younger self, you know, don't give up on the Lord because that's the best thing you figured out so far.
And
So,
so, as we're talking about your younger self, let's go ahead and zoom fast forward to future generations yet unborn. What advice would you give them to prevent them from feeling stuck in a place they don't want to be in so that
well,
they be unboxed?
I tell them, kids, I really give you a lot of credit because you are born at a time when the world, is beautiful. There's wonderful things happening, all kinds of like new kinds of medicine and things that you can do with computers and space travel. There's all this stuff, but then there's a real problem that people, for some reason, people keep fighting wars and getting mad at each other, and we have the trouble that we think it's okay to burn all the oil up, but the air gets messed up, and this Earth is getting hotter. I think most people have noticed that global warming is a real thing, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that, but you're going to have to help solve it. That's the world you're given. And I want you to know now that have faith and read the good book. Because if you read the Bible, you'll find out that in the end of the story now,
Hmm.
Jesus is going to come back. He's going to live on earth with us, and everything's going to come out just wonderful. There won't be any death, no more tears. You know, we'll be able to get along, and we'll be getting ready for heaven with him. Whether we stay on heaven on earth or heaven upstairs, don't matter to me as long as I'm near God. That's what all I want. I do have lots of questions, and I'm going to ask them when I get to heaven. I hope I don't get in trouble. You know, it's like,
Well, I think that when I get to heaven, I'm going to be so busy praising him, I won't even care about the answers to the questions that probably won't matter once I get to heaven.
that's right. No, I love to sing. I always sang in a choir, but in heaven, I don't want to sing all the time. I mean, I'll do my time.
Well, I think by the time I get there, I'll leave it up to God that I'm going to be his doing whatever it is that he wants. And so I'm going to not even project into that. I'll just stick with what the word says and enjoy praising God in whatever way that he wants us to.
There you go. There you
And
go.
yeah. I'm getting excited about that thought. So,
Yeah.
how can our listeners connect with you?
How can they connect with me? You mean how can they get in touch with me?
Yeah, we're getting ready to wrap this show up, and so that's the way I conclude by repeating your contact information. Your books are there. You guys, another thing that you haven't mentioned yet, where your music can be found on some channel.
Well, YouTube.
What's
Yes,
the name of the channel?
it's Rod Martin and Friends channel.
Right. I
Don't
wanted
forget
you
the
to be able
music
to
video.
say that.
Right.
Anything else you want us to know about your work, or um, any of the things that you've written that you want to share with us before we close?
Well, I'm still writing things all the time. And that idea of the putting Huckleberry and Moby Dick together, getting Huckleberry Dick. That's one of my favorite books. It's a detective love story mystery. So the main character, Joe Freedom, he's kind of discouraged because his wife, well, she was unfaithful and broke his heart. So he goes home and he moves into his family's basement, and they're worried that he's not connecting with people. And his mom says, "Now listen, I think you should go see a therapist and talk to her." And she gives him a card. He looks at the card, and there's a picture of a beautiful woman named Vanna Fox. He goes,
Uh,
"Okay, I'll go." And in 9 sessions, he does his best to win her heart. And she finally says, "Well, I can't be your therapist. I'm sorry." "What? What? But I need you." He says, "Well, I'll be here for you. I won't be your therapist, but I kind of want to be your girlfriend."
uh-huh. Don't
Okay.
tell too much of the story because you want folks to buy that book.
Right.
What's the audience of the writing that you put out? You've talked to
Um,
us on various levels, being a reading teacher. I'm looking at the different ability skills levels here. What audience do you think your writing is targeting?
well, like that book is, I would say for adults, that's adult level things, because I don't think the kids would understand all of my, um, you know, descriptions of falling in love and things that young people want to do. But I tried to keep it, PG, suggesting that they're having a lot of fun, but giving no details.
Right.
Um, but I've also written several children's books,
Mm-hmm.
like The Tale of the Vorpal Snit and the Natalie Nightingale, who has the power to turn people into flowers.
Oh, how delightful.
Dramatic. And there's one called Things I Don't Know About Animals, where I show all my ignorance and stuff. And it rhymes. I love my rhyme and stuff. So
Yeah.
there's books for kids, there's books for adults, and something I hope for everyone. And I'm not done writing yet.
No, you're not done writing. I'm not done writing. And I found an image of most of your books on your website. So we'll put that up probably while I'm yet speaking. It will be flashed across the screen so people can see what your book covers look like. But right now, I just want to say thank you for being our special guest today because you have lived a life of being unboxed on purpose. Not a lot of people can say that their life has not had dark places in it. And it's a treasure to be able to give a person a microphone that can do that so well and so lovingly and in such a way to encourage others that it is possible to live a life of peace with the Lord. Any final comments you want to say about writing things down and sharing what works?
Well, I was just thinking about what you said, how, trust in the Lord, because it's easier to be good. You're going to have a better life if that makes your goal. Try to please the Lord and do what He said. He said, if you just listen to me and my commandments, you're going to have a good time. So, and for those of you who have an artistic bent, follow it. If you're a singer, get out there and sing. If you're a songwriter, start writing some songs. They're not going to all be winners, but you get better with practice.
I guess I'll go ahead and write another book then.
Okay, you should.
Let's just do that. All right, Rob Martin, thank you so much. You are indeed unboxed on purpose, and I appreciate you taking the time to come all the way from Hawaii to Virginia so that
Yeah.
we could share this time together in cyberspace. Oh, God
Thank
bless
you for
you.
giving me the opportunity to do so.
I'll let the audience know that behind stage, when we were talking about this, Rod told me I've never done this before. So put a couple of comments in the comment area and let Rod know that he did a pretty good job today. Yay! You did a real
Well,
good
thank you.
job today. Thank you so much for just stepping outside of your comfort zone and doing this thing called podcasting on this beautiful day.
Mm.
And so now I'd like to just turn to the audience and encourage you to tune in again next week. for being unboxed on purpose. I don't know. You might decide, well, if he could do that, I could do it too. And if you want to be a guest on our show, go to my website, favoritbythefather.com. Click contact us, and we can schedule a time to talk about your being a guest on this show. It's designed with you in mind. We want average people talking about themselves and times when they've stepped outside of whatever it was that someone else expected, and they chose to pursue their authentic destiny, their ultimate purpose. So you can help us thrive in 2025, even though we may be mid-year. We can still keep thriving and growing. Leave your name, email address, unboxed for the subject, and briefly describe why you want to be on the show. So we want you to join us every Thursday for about 30 minutes or so for the next episode of Unboxed on Purpose. We have restorative questions and answers and conversations, and you can find the released episodes on our Favorite by the Father Ministries YouTube channel, on our Facebook page, LinkedIn, and most other podcast platforms. We evolve just like butterflies do, coming out of a dark box, a place that others try to confine us to, but we flutter freely into an atmosphere to lofty levels in the Lord. We want you to fulfill your purpose, bloom wherever you are planted, grow your intimacy with the Lord, and grow in grace as you remain favored by the Father. God bless you, and thank you so much for joining us today. Favored by the Father Ministries is pleased to announce the book Points to Ponder, Devotional Readings and Journaling, released December 17th, 2024, authored by your host, Barbara Arlene Fields Brehon. Whether you are seeking devotional time with the Lord that is strengthened, seeking spiritual growth, or a deeper connection with God, this devotional reading guide is for you. It helps you to journal your thoughts and special time with the Lord. It is available now on Amazon.com in softcover, hardcover, and ebook. Kirsten Samuel endorses this book by saying, if you want to deepen your journey with Jesus, this book's short daily thoughts and verses encourage you to sit a spell with Jesus. Use it like a spiritual journal. By the book's conclusion, you'll discover this beautiful faith walk strengthened your soul, opened your eyes to God's work in you, and sharpened your ability to hear God's tender voice. Get your copy on Amazon today. Softcover, hardcover, or ebook. Get one for a friend too.